When we want to be consistent around the greens, we need to really simplify it. We often try and do too much. We try and create different contacts. Sometimes we try and get more spin, less spin, whatever it may be. So the first, I guess, tip I want to give you is just get good with one club only. I'm using a sand wedge. You can use your gap wedge, you can use a lob wedge, whichever you're most comfortable with. And there's a reason why I'm using a sand wedge, which is in the middle of my wedge range, and I'll explain a little bit later why that's important, especially when it comes to distance control. But before we can tackle consistent distance control, we need to be able to have a consistent contact, so then we can have better distance control. However, the most golfers I encounter when it comes to chipping, they're too much with their hands. They're decelerating, trying to help it up sometimes, or trying to keep their hands forward. So it often looks a bit like this. All of these things create different types of spin on the ball, different low point control. So what we really want to try and do is actually thin our chip shots. So I want you to start thinking about not trying to get the ball down, not trying to sort of get under it. I want you to try and thin your chip shots, okay? We're trying to get it just below the equator here, just very below. And that objective is going to help you strike the ball correctly, slide up the face, and create that grip and spin that we need, and have that control. So we can basically have reliable spin control, reliable height. And you may never have tried this before because you're always trying different things. So I want you to go out and practice. And we're going to keep it really, really simple to begin with. You're going to put your feet and knees together. So the ball is about middle of your stance in between your feet here. And we're going to do just some little chip shots, you know, only 10, 15 yards or so. I'm not using lots of wrists. I've got a little bit more weight forward, but I'm really hovering the club. I'm hovering the club here just to be able to thin it. That's giving me a signal that I have control. A little trick we can do is actually hover just before we hit the chip shot. This can help calibrate yourself. So from here, I'm trying to strike the middle of the ball and then down afterwards. But I'm not trying to force it down. I'm just trying to catch it nice and clean. And you'll see there, I actually caught it perfectly. So once you get good at that, we can then calibrate our distance control. This drill is very crucial and not enough people do it. But I promise you, if you just practice this a couple of times, you'll see instant improvement, and it will last quite a while. You see, every chip shot we hit, no matter what club it may be, I've got a sand wedge because it's middle of the pack. Every chip shot you ever have is going to carry a certain amount of distance, and it's going to roll a certain amount of distance. There's variables amongst all of that. But you see, where this landed here, even though I caught a nice little strike, it was uphill, it rolled out maybe 1, 2, 2.5, 3 yards, okay? I have to be able to calculate that. But how do we begin to calculate that? Here's what you do. I want you to grab a T-peg around your chipping green, stick it in the ground, and we're gonna start with about 10 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, approximately. And my objective here, and with every single chip shot you ever hit in your life, is to try and land it in a certain spot. But there's always going to be a certain amount of rollout. And we're trying to find something relatively level here. The greens are very slopey at this course, so it's not always easy to find a level chip shot. But applying the same technique that I talked about earlier, I'm just trying to catch it nice and clean, but I'm trying to land it on that mark, okay? So what I'm doing here is seeing after even just 3 shots, how much this is rolling out. That landed right on it. A little bit short. So we can see, just from calculations wise, how many yards, 1, 2, 3, okay? And just to show you, so this is about where I want to land the shot. If I've got this shot here, it's approximately 10 yards to land it. There's a lot more slope than before, but my goal is to land it on that T-peg knowing that it's going to roll out pretty much the same that we calculated. So every shot I hit from now on, with my sand wedge from 10 yards, approximately, I know that it's going to roll out 3 yards. That's my basic calculation, and it's going to help my distance control. But we don't have to stop there, because the longer the shot, the more rollout we're going to get. We've paced out approximately 20 yards now. How far is my sand wedge on these greens today that's actually landing a bit downhill? I mean, that's the thing, there's always going to be variables that you have to sort of allow. How fast the greens are, how slow the greens are. But this, I tell you now, is going to roll out a lot more. So even though the T-peg is there, I'm going to see how far this is going to roll. Of course, I'm not going to land it exactly on my spot every time, but we're trying to get a nice idea. Need to catch it a bit thinner. Okay, one more. Okay, not perfect strikes, but not too bad. A decent average, if you will. So now I'm going to pace out the T-peg. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 paces. 6 yards is about the average rollout from these shots. So it's very basic, but double the yardage from 10 yards to 20 yards of carry, it's going to double the rollout. It's going to be different on each green. It's going to be different from the rough as well. So if let's say we've got this one here, this is maybe only a 10-yard shot, but I'm playing it from the rough. This is going to roll out a lot more. Once you know it's going to roll out more, even though that was just a 10-yard shot, it rolled out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It rolled out similar to the 20-yard shot. This might seem a bit jumbled, but the point I'm really trying to get across is thin your chip shots for that ultimate control. Get good at that. But also while you're doing that, get good at distance control. Don't aim for the hole, aim for your landing zone. And when you can calculate how far it's going to roll out, you will be so much better around the greens. You don't have to use a sand wedge. You can use a gap wedge. Remember, that's going to be a bit lower. It's going to probably roll out a little bit more, but test it out. Same with a lob wedge. It's probably going to spin more, go a little bit higher, not going to roll out as much. It's going to be different for all of you, but find your distance control. Let me know what questions you have. Check out this lesson as well, because it's going to help distance control even from the fairway. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.